So the place value chart will come in handy if you're not really comfortable with all the names for the place values, positions, but we have to read our numbers right. A lot of kids are like, oh, the answer is 4.2. We aren't going to say that in 5th grade. We're going to say 4 and 2/10. Okay, so you guys need to be familiar with the place value spots or your numbers are going to be 1.23. Okay, we need to get used to that. Why do we need to know the actual place value spots for our places? Why do you think it's important? Yeah. Can you write word form if you don't know how to say it? So you guys have to know this because it's going to get thrown in word form sometimes. And if you don't know the actual words that you say for the numbers, you're in big trouble. Okay, so we're going to talk about place value real quick. And I'm going to show you a couple of new things. And it will be easy for you guys to pick up. Raise your hand if you like money. Everybody raise your hand. Come on. So I always tell 5th graders, you guys generally care about money, right? When you do decimal place value and work with decimals, I want you to think about money. How much money is that? Lila?
$5.14.
If you owe me $5.14, what are you going to hand me?
$5.
So 5 $1 bills are a 5, and then what else? Hold on. A dime and 4 pennies. So I always tell kids, remember the tenths place are like having dimes, okay? 1 dime is 1/10 of a dollar, okay? So if you can remember everything that's in the tenths place, a tenth of a dollar is a dime. Your tenths, if you think about it like having dimes, it'll help keep your head straight on what goes there. A lot of kids try to call this the once place every year. There is no such thing as the once place. It was a nice word, but it doesn't exist. Are we good so far? And then Lila said she would give me 4 pennies, right? Did we do a lot of penny work with our bridges last week? 4 pennies. This is the hundredths place. And if you think about it like pennies, 1 penny is 1/100th of a dollar. You need 100 pennies to have a dollar. You need 10 dimes to have a dollar. Do you see? So this is just a review of what you guys did last year. So hundredths, sometimes they'll write it this way, like a fraction. Sometimes they'll write it in words. Sometimes they'll just put it like this as a decimal. There's lots of different ways to show it, but it all means the same thing. The thing that they add this year are thousandths. So I told you when you look at the tenths place to think about dimes. When you look at the hundredths place, think about pennies. What does a thousandth look like? Is it small or is it big? Can you think of something that looks like a thousandth? You're like, oh yeah, I just had a 1,000th of yogurt the other day. Are we going to do that very often in our life? No. So when I get to thousandths, kids usually have a hard time because they're like, well, what's 1,000th look like? And if you were in my small group this morning, you already know what I'm about to say. But when you think of a thousandth, imagine you have a penny. And I'm going to take this penny and I'm going to take a laser and I'm going to blast it into 10 tiny pieces. That's not very even. I'm not really good at drawing tenths yet. One day I'm going to master it. So if I take a penny and I blast it into 10 little slivers and I give you 1 piece of penny pie, 1 tiny little piece of penny pie is what a 1,000th would look like. You want that for your birthday? No. Do we pull out thousandths from our wallet to pay for things? No. But if we're a scientist, do those teeny tiny numbers matter?
Yes.
Yeah. If we're a chemist and we're mixing different chemicals together, do those thousandths matter?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. If we're making medicine for people who are sick, do you think they care about those teeny tiny little numbers? Oh, you betcha. They do. They have to be very careful. There are people who have jobs that care about the thousandths. But for us, I always tell kids, when you see decimals, think about money. Your tenths place are your dimes. Your hundredths place, those are your pennies. Your thousandths place, your piece of penny pie. I made it up. Okay, there's no such thing as penny pie. But can you close your eyes and think about how small that would be?
Yes.
It's teeny, teeny, tiny, right? So this is one thing you have to know for 5th grade place value. You have to know what the thousandths place is. Okay? The other thing that we're going to do is figuring out what 10 times a decimal number is and 1/10 of a number is. If I want to take a decimal number, let's say 453 thousandths, pretty tiny little amount, or 45 cents and 3 slivers of penny pie on top. Yay. If I take 453 thousandths and I say, I'm feeling generous, I'm going to give you 10 times that much. Is my number that I'm going to get for my answer, is it going to be bigger or smaller?
Bigger.
It's going to be bigger. So what we're going to do, when we multiply a decimal number times 10, see how there's 1 0 there? That 0 is going to tell you a secret. He's going to tell you to move the decimal over 1 spot to the right.
Oh, I usually just say that I'll jump over to the
Yeah. So we're going to move him 1 spot over to the right and bump that decimal between the 4 and the 5, and my answer is 453, or I'm sorry, 4 and 53 hundredths. Well, what if I wanted to do the same number and I want to multiply it times 100?
Oh.
Is my answer going to get bigger?
Yes.
Yes. And these little zeros are going to give you a secret. Guess what they're going to tell you to do? They're going to tell you to move the decimal over to the right 2 times, because there's 2 zeros that are going to help you out. So I'm going to take my decimal and go hop, hop, and put it right here. My answer is 45 and 3/10. What if I did the same number and I multiplied it times 1,000? Guess what they're going to tell you to do?
Move it over 3 times.
Well, you've got 3 little zeros to help you out here, and they want you to do easy math and get the right answer. And they're going to tell you to move it over to the right 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and I drop my dot here. I now have 453. Give me a thumbs up if that looks pretty easy. Good. The other thing we do in 5th grade is sometimes we multiply it times 1/10. So if I multiply something times 1/10, is my answer going to be bigger or smaller when I get done doing my multiplying? Smaller. 1/10 of a dollar is how much? 1/10 of a dollar is how much money? A dime. 10 cents. Is 10 cents smaller than a dollar? So when I multiply 1 times 1/10, I get 10 cents. When you multiply a decimal number times 1/10, we're going to move our decimal over to the left because my answer is going to get smaller. So it would go from here to there. And I have 818 thousandths. Same thing. If I have 8 and 18 hundredths and I multiply it times 100th, guess how many times we're going to move it? My zeros are going to tell me to go 2 times. And since we're multiplying it times 1/100th, my decimal is going to hop 1, 2 spots, and I drop my dot. See how I've got a big empty spot? You have to put zeros in the empty spots. They keep your world straight, remember? Now I'm coming up with a really big, weird number. We don't go out to the 10,000ths place in 5th grade. I just did that on accident. But you get the idea, right?
Isn't it supposed to be divided?
Nope. I'm multiplying. When I'm doing this, Dean, you asked a really good question.
I didn't notice that was a fraction.
Yeah, this is a fraction. So if I did 8 and 1800ths divided by 100, would I get the same answer?
Yes.
Yes, because essentially I'm doing the exact same thing. You see?